Good evening. Welcome to the special meeting, Tuesday, July 12th, 2022. I'd appreciate it if you'd all, oh, that was me, I'm sorry. If you'd all join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Here.
Nichols?
Here.
Osborne?
Here.
Siebel?
Here.
Smock?
Approval of the July 12th, 22 agenda.
So moved approval.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Josh Moon and I had a conversation, and he was questioning some city business, and he asked if he could present tonight. So you have
Thank you, Mayor. So the reason I'm here is just to suggest to the council members a formal process. Formal might be too strongly worded. To request legal opinions and advice from the city attorney. In talking to my predecessor, I understand that there was a process in place to do that, where requests were made by the council persons through the mayor and then relayed to my predecessor. The main reason behind this is just to be mindful of the city's use of money and resources, and provide an opportunity where the request is communicated amongst the group and perhaps some discussion can be had to determine the necessity of the opinion. Perhaps someone knows the answer, or it can be narrowed, things of that nature. So that was just a discussion I had with the mayor. It came up kind of organically during the conversation. I was asked to attend the meeting tonight and kind of make that pitch. But that's my suggestion. And if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to field them. But that's just I think a simple process we could follow moving forward.
Does anybody have any questions?
I just have one, Jay. Is there a reason why I'm just a little confused on what it was in the past. We could call the attorney. I have in the past. I'm just wondering what's the reason why we go through the mayor now. And then does the mayor determine if the question's got validity and then to the attorney, or do you still hear the request that the council asks the mayor?
I think that's part of the discussion we can have. If there's a dispute that there's, someone speaks up and says, I don't think this is a good use of the city's money for the attorney to provide an opinion on this, there can be discussion on what happens next. And I don't know, perhaps you could put it up for a vote, determine what the request should be, whether it's appropriate. I've had some requests come to me in the past that are kind of open-ended and vague as well, and I could spend hours of time coming up with an opinion. And I want to be mindful of the charges in my time too, because I understand we're not cheap. So to answer your question, Councilperson Sewell, I think there could be a process where if there's a dispute, you can put it up for a vote, or you can just still make the request and reach out to the city attorney, reach out to me, and we can have a discussion. Like I said, I think formal is a little strongly worded, but it's just a process that I think can be put in place to kind of use the organizational flow of the city to reach the city attorney and have some discussion on what exactly is being requested for an opinion.
The only reason I ask you that is sometimes we have talked with the mayor, nothing wrong there, but she said she has to reach out for legal opinion. So if it's something that we wonder, question an ordinance or something like that, so you're thinking it's better to, even though sometimes the mayor can't answer the question, she says, I have to reach out to the attorney. So I'm just trying to figure out why a double process, unless you're saying these things are not really wanting to be bothered by you, because what's your past history? You find the things menial, not important when you had calls from whoever, or?
I'm not saying that at all.
Okay, that's all I want.
No, I'm not saying that at all.
Okay.
And in fact, there hasn't been one question that since my tenure here that I've thought wasn't worth my time. I just made a simple suggestion that there be a process where you run it through the mayor.
Okay.
And as I said before, I understand that's traditionally how it's been done.
Any other questions?
Where does that fall in on your ability to spend money? I mean, it's budgeted, but why couldn't a councilman call?
Well, generally speaking, it's as a group that we talk about reaching out to the city attorney. And you guys are in agreement that we should reach out to the city attorney.
Yes,
I mean, if it's a,
but I mean, if a councilman can't call, how can you go? How can you call?
well, usually it's a consensus of the council that we get a legal opinion about it.
Now that I understand, but I mean, just if you just want an answer to a question like some of us might have, and we can't get it from you, or the mayor, or anybody else, or other councilman.
Well, then I can ask, then I could say, would you like me to reach out to our city attorney? Like I do in a formal meeting like this.
Yeah, but why couldn't he take it up on himself or whoever had it was calling?
And this was something that Josh recommended.
Well, I
He's been getting a
understand,
lot
that's
of
why I'm just
calls.
asking for an answer, I don't. Because I feel that the councilman has as much right to call the attorney as the mayor does, because the mayor has no spending authority at all. Because the councilman don't either as a person, but
Right.
as a, so where does that fall in?
Well, generally speaking, it's a consensus of the council to make that call to the attorney. So it should be the consensus of the council to make a call to the attorney for all of us.
So I'm just trying to clarify, Dan.
Yeah.
If we had a question, and you and I have talked, and we can't come to a consensus of an answer, then we could agree that you would call Josh and we'd get a legal opinion back to our question.
That is correct.
Okay, that's what I just want to know.
Yep. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Josh.
Thanks.
Thanks, Josh, for coming.
I had reached out to Tony Thompson this week. We'd had several conversations about law enforcement, and we had several conversations about wages here of late. I'd asked him to come here to speak just about law enforcement in general and just kind of some of the things that they've experienced here lately with increases in wages and et cetera. Would you mind coming up to the podium?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I had the opportunity to visit with your mayor, reference some of the problems that unfortunately are not unique to Evansdale. Unfortunately for Evansdale, you guys are facing them a little more acutely here pretty shortly. But the shortages in staffing that most in law enforcement are feeling since George Floyd and even before that is not unique. What we have experienced and what we see from an administrative perspective is it's difficult to solicit folks into this line of work right now. And all the money in the world doesn't seem to want to encourage that. We took a very unique stance back during budget this year that recognized somewhat of an immediacy of response in that I pushed the board in a unique position that has never happened in the county before. I actually went in asking for a $3 bump, and the board chose to go a different route and open up contract negotiations outside of the usual methodology that they use, and tied a $2 an hour bump to all of our unit staff. And we did that $1 in January,
January 1st,
and then March,
and then July.
and then in July it was a 3%. So what they did is they opened up that contract and extended a 3-year contract extension at 3%. So it was $1 in January, $1 in March, and then 3% starting July 1st, which for most people, depending on what step they were on, equated to somewhere between 13 and 17% raise across the board. And that sounds pretty substantial. The problem is we didn't gain any ground as compared to other like-sized agencies across the state. Those that you would consider to be in our market, so to speak. And quite frankly, we're not really talking about the Cedar Rapids, Lynn counties, Iowa City, Johnson counties in our market anymore. We're really looking now at other agencies and other organizations that are not associated with law enforcement, the Target Distribution Centers, the John Deeres, the other organizations that have comparable wage and benefits package that are just as enticing to young applicants nowadays. And so that is also drawing against the workforce that you guys are trying to draw into this discipline and this profession right now. So what you're facing is not different, not new, not unique. Our approach was rather unique, and it has been talked about. Mark's had conversations, my chief deputy and field services division commander has had conversations with other administrators and other staff around the state just as recently as last week, saying, man, what you guys have done certainly stands out. So people are talking about what we did, but again, if you liken it to keeping up with the Joneses, we still have not kept up with the Joneses. We still have attrition, we still have retention issues, and we still face hiring challenges, not to the degree that you're facing. We're down about 10% staff right now, and so that's a challenge for us as well. But that is not unique, and that is certainly being felt profession-wide, nationwide in law enforcement. So the predicament that you're facing, the predicament that you're soon to be facing, where you're going to be, what, about 50% down?
That is correct.
Is going to make it challenging for you to fill shifts, to actually be force aware and be able to cover contracts and do those kinds of things too. So it's not lost on me where you stand today. But we were a little bit ahead of the power curve when we made these recommendations back in October. The challenging thing for us is we had to take all of that out of Hyde. With 140 staff members, we had to take that $1, $1, and 3% out of Hyde. We got no additional funding out of that $17 million budget to make that work. And we're still holding our breath right now. Every year we crash land our budget right around this time of the year, and so we're watching that FY22 budget continue to dwindle as the final bills come in to make sure that we don't have to do a quick budget amendment at the end of this fiscal year to be able to cover those bills with those additionals. There was one more agreement that was made, and that was a payout of earned time to bring everybody back down to 40 hours so that we didn't have a lot of extra earned time sitting out there on the books. And so we drew down everyone's casual and compensation time down to 40 hours. And anything over that, they just got paid out for. And so that was another contractual issue that got taken care of. And again, that's a big check that's going to be cut out of our budget that was never budgeted for. So we're paying attention to that. And that check goes out, what, next week? Yes. So we're about, what, 65,000, I think, for that. So we're paying attention to that as well. So there was quite a little bit of finagling between and bartering between the Board of Supervisors, the Sheriff's Office Administration, and the union to try and make all of this happen. But our administration, our supervisors didn't put a whole lot of skin in the game other than to open that contract back up and extend that contract 3 years. So a lot of unique things occurred between then and now. And so that just gives you a feel for what we faced, just trying to do what we could do to stay competitive in the law enforcement field, only to be undercut by, again, private companies and businesses around the area, and seeing what, again, trying to keep up with the Joneses, what things are happening out there in the marketplace, because the marketplace isn't certified law enforcement anymore. We had a gentleman just leave and go to Underfirth to build gravity flow wagons. I don't know why. It doesn't make any sense to me. He spent all this time going through the law enforcement academy only to turn around and go to Underfirth. Okay. Again, law enforcement's not for everybody, and it's a difficult field right now. So, yeah. But what can I answer for you? How can I help the city of Evansdale?
I'm gonna just give them a quick update. We had, officially received the retirement / resignation from Sergeant Weber, and that's effective September 1st. We have one of our law enforcement officers that is looking at a job in Benton County, and another one of our law enforcement officers that is looking at a job at a different, I don't really think I should probably say that city as of yet. And with Officer Dietz being on leave, we'll be actually down to 5 officers. That's a scary thing, since it is a requirement of the state of Iowa that we have law enforcement. So we're looking at, this is kind of an emergency right now. We need to really, we did have a candidate that had been through ILA, and we gave her the job offer, and she declined it. So we're not even getting any qualified candidates that we've, even through Indeed, spent probably over $1,000 in advertising.
It's an applicant's market right now, too.
Yeah.
Most people that apply to one agency, they're applying to 15. And so your starting wage, your benefits package, your hours of work, that work-life balance, all of those things matter more now than they ever have. So paying attention to the uniqueness of what you provide as an employee package, how you onboard people. We pay attention to some of those additional perks. We have a full weight room in the basement that they don't have to pay to use. There's just a lot of different things that administrators have to do now and pay attention to now. Free Wi-Fi in the lounge. I mean, just bizarre stuff that you just don't think about. We've completely revamped everybody's workspace at the sheriff's office over the last 2 years. It is a challenge. You've got a nice facility down there at 9/11, right? So
Yes.
it's a matter of really taking a hard look at how competitive you are to those 15 other agencies that are on that list as well. Because I will about guarantee you, for that person that applied, are you competitive? And the chances are you're probably not. So if you really take a hard look at apples to apples comparison across the board, that really is where you as administrators need to try and start placing yourselves if you truly want to start filling those positions. People aren't going to take them out of the goodness of their hearts anymore.
No, right, exactly.
I have a question for you, Tony.
Yeah.
If we have this situation in the city, is the county has some understanding with our force that they would chip in knowing we're short or you're too
We
short?
will not.
You will not do that.
You have a codified obligation under the Code of Iowa
Right.
to provide law enforcement
Right, I
coverage.
understand.
I'm 10% down as well. Now, you can contract with me, but understand what you guys have already done to me. You undercut me and took the outrun contract from me, right?
I think it was voted on by the council, yeah.
Yeah.
They came to us, I mean,
So tell me why I should come running to help you.
No, I'm not saying that, Tony. I just asked a question.
Then
I'm 10% down,
we
so
shouldn't
I
be
don't
paying
have
any
the extra
taxes to
staff.
the, we shouldn't be paying any taxes to the county then too.
Oh, is
if
that
that's-
right?
If that's your case.
Ron,
Yeah, I know it.
Ron, we
You-
back your people up every single day.
I know you have.
Every
No,
single
I'm
day.
not
But
complaining.
what I'm not
at
gonna
all.
do is I'm not gonna staff against your shortage.
No.
That's what I'm telling you.
No, I understand that because I know you've taken care of Evansdale. In fact, there was an accident on River Forest Road here a couple of months ago.
We were out here
Evansdale-
today.
And hit a telephone pole or something. Evansdale never did show up.
Yeah. We back you up, and the conversation that I had with your chief on Wednesday is we will be here every single day that you need us. But what I won't do is I will not staff against your shortage. I can't do it. The money that you pay us to provide for us to do our services have nothing to do with patrol activities. My patrol activities are paid out of rural basic, and that is not a part of where your services come from.
The only thing I was.
You're paying for the jail, you're paying for civil process, you're paying
No,
for
I
all of those
understand,
other
I understand
things.
all that. The only thing I was saying is back up. Just like on this, what's the union got to do with it then? Why pay union dues if they're not negotiating enough to get you a living wage? You
I
might
have
as
no
well.
idea what you're talking about.
Union, I assume the police are under the union contract.
My deputies?
No, city of
I have
Evansdale.
no idea.
Yeah, we are. Actually, Dan McDonald had brought this out, earlier today.
Then,
This has nothing to do with.
no, it
with
has
Tony
nothing to do
coming.
with him, but what I'm getting is why pay, if they're, figure they're not getting enough of the money, quit the union and we'll negotiate with them and save the union dues.
I don't see
They
that
can-
happening.
What I'm getting is they negotiated the contract with the union and that contract should be good until the time limit that's on there.
Yeah. Well, it's
I
not.
got nothing against anybody or as far as any, but when you negotiate a contract, that should be it. And so you might have a couple years short, but there's another contract coming up. I don't know when it's,
The example I just gave you about what Blackhawk County did was not modified, was not initiated by the union. It was initiated by administration. It was administrated by me, because we saw the problem. And the union certainly bought into it. We certainly worked cooperatively with our union, because they saw the necessity as well. So I think it's a narrow focus for you to say that this should be borne or pushed by the union. They will very easily, push forward and say, we need more money, but they also are bound by the obligation of the contract that you've already established with
no,
them.
that's what I was getting.
I don't know how
It's
long it
contract.
is, but what you're going to do is you're going to pin yourself or paint yourself into a corner that you can't get yourself out of. And that's not the union's problem, that's your problem.
See, and there's another thing you gotta look at too, like John Deere's or something like that. You can be laid off. Here, you're not gonna be laid off, or is it most?
Oh, we are definitely in an environment, in an employment situation that just is going to continue to predicate work for us. There's
So
no doubt about
that's a
that.
plus.
Yeah, well, I wish it weren't. But that's true, you're absolutely right.
No, I got nothing against your department or the Department of Evansdale.
Yeah, no, I need to
I'm
make clear
making
though,
a statement. yeah.
it's not at all that we will not back you up. We will be here 24/7, 365 to back up your agency and to do what we need to do to make sure we bring conclusion to whatever issues you face. We've always been good partners and we've always relied on each other, backing each other up. It was funny, we had a meeting regarding when Highway 20 was being resurfaced out here, and we started going head to head out there, what was that, 4 or 5 years ago? And the DOT said, well, what happens if an accident occurs right here? Who's taking it? And we looked at each other, we said, whoever gets there first. And they laughed. And they said, no, seriously, whose responsibility is it? We said, well, technically, it's in Evansdale, but whoever gets there first is gonna work the accident. When the rest of us show up, we will direct traffic, we will divert traffic, we'll do whatever needs to happen, but whoever gets there first will work it. And they were just blown away that that occurs in Blackhawk County. And that's truly the way it happens. It doesn't matter if the state patrol arrives, if we arrive, if Evansdale arrives, we all just back each other up. And so that will continue. There's no doubt that that will always continue. And we will make sure that calls don't go unanswered. And again, your taxpayer dollars, if Evansdale's tied up, the second call for service comes to us. And we will answer that call. But I cannot staff against your shortage. I can't afford to, I don't have it. So that's not, because if every city said, hey, we don't have the bodies, sheriff, you need to staff against our shortage. I had the same conversation with LaPorte City about 5 years ago with a brand new mayor that thought that he could get rid of his law enforcement, and just because they pay city or county taxes, that the sheriff's office would pick up the slack, and that's not the way that Code of Iowa works. So you've got to appreciate your codified obligations as an incorporated city to uphold your side of it. Now, here's your problem. Right now, you're sitting with 0 applicants. So it's gonna take you, Mike, 6-8 weeks, I don't know how long your FTO program is, plus 18 weeks of a law enforcement academy. So you're a good 6 months from actually having any viable candidate being able to take a squad car and drive and work and do that job. So you're already a half of a year behind, and you know you've got these pending losses. So you're already in desperate situation. I mean, this conversation should have happened 6 months ago.
Yes, I agree.
So you're really in a tough spot. And my pledge to you is we will help you in any way, shape, and form we can. But I cannot cover your city and your contracted communities. I can't do it. I don't have the staff to do it, and I don't have the remuneration to make it happen. So we will help you out as best we can. We will cover down on those calls that go unanswered. But again, I cannot plus up my staffing to cover for Evansdale shortages. I can't do it. And I apologize for that. What other questions do you have for me?
I mean, I'm just looking at what he's saying, regardless of what we do, if we open up the contract or whatever we do, and what Mike is saying, anyway we go, I guess this is gonna take some verbiage from us talking, because any way we go, we're still not gonna have the staffing. So that's a question I'm gonna be asking, how is that gonna be modified to where we're waiting 6 months to hopefully have candidates, and we open up the contract or whatever we think is the best thing to do. How are we gonna get by then, being both chiefs are saying we'll be short for 6 months?
Well, you know, initially, if we open up the contract, and that's something that we definitely need to consider, the sooner the better, we may be able to retain 2 of those employees. They have already stated that they enjoy working for the city of Evansdale. But when you're looking at,
I just wanted to help answer that question a little bit if I could.
yes,
You might notice that some of the staff from the police department are here, and the reason they're here is because they're acutely aware of what's going on, and they're very concerned about what the outcome of this meeting is. I can assure you that some of this problem can be fixed. And that's going to take you folks really taking a hard look at wages. I'll just call it like it is. I took a little opportunity today to throw together some numbers.
thank you, Tony.
Yeah, absolutely.
I looked at kind of what, based on kind of building off what the sheriff said, what other agencies are doing, what other employers like John Deere and Target Distribution are doing, just to kind of help give you folks an idea of where I think we should be at. I realize you got something from the union, and I'll be honest, I think that it's not aggressive enough. That's my opinion. And this is just to start a conversation. I know you might look at that and go, wow. This is to start a conversation. I'll be honest with you. I have heard every one of my staff at some point or another in the recent future talk about leaving for various reasons. And I guess I'm turning to you folks, and I was glad that the sheriff and the chief deputy would come talk with you, because I'm looking for some help to try to save this department. And, well, first and foremost, save the department, and hopefully the staff that we have. This is a valuable resource to the citizens of Evansdale. These officers know this community. They know the people in this community. And then we also want to try to attract new officers. And we've made two attempts to do that, and we've turned up nothing. We had one potential option, one potential hire, and I made an offer to her, and she declined. So as of right now, I'm just trying to salvage what we have. And I'm looking to you folks to help with that. Any questions?
No, appreciate your time, Mike.
Thank you.
Let's step up for just a second to speak about, or elaborate on what the sheriff had said about assisting you guys with staff and their shifts. And what we understood is you're gonna potentially run into problems with as few officers as you have, just to staff at 24/7, 365. Like the sheriff had said, we're having the same problems. It's just that our minimum standard is more, or minimum qualification for the staff to shift is more than one. So on average, currently, we're paying between 16 and 24 hours a day in overtime to fulfill our minimum staff. What we can't do is if Waterloo or Cedar Falls or LaPorte City or Evansdale has a shortage in their staffing, staff that just out of our staff that is working, because we're paying overtime to do it. In order to accomplish that, first of all, I think what the sheriff was elaborating to is there's enough overtime right now within our own department that the guys are getting burned out. And this is industry standard within law enforcement. It's not a popular career at this point in time. It's not highly sought after. And we as administrators are struggling to fulfill our minimum staffing. And that's what you're looking at. In order to do that on an outside employment terms, so if you wanted to hire a deputy to help staff your minimum standards, our average deputy right now with their pay raise is right around $36 an hour. Now overtime, it's time and a half, so it's around 50. I'm not sure, I haven't seen the numbers Mike put together, and I'm not familiar with what your hourly wage is for an Evansdale police officer, but I think it's far below that. And if you're looking for supplemental assistance, then we would have to do overtime, or our staff would have to do it if they're not gonna work at 49. If they're able to work more than they can, more than they want, for us at 50. So I want you to understand from the full perspective, the full vision on that, of why that's problematic for us to just step in and fulfill your shift and that we can't do that.
Right.
Any other questions for me as far as that goes?
I understand what you're saying.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
You bet.
So this is just something that wasn't really planned as far as to be the first part of our planning session. It's something that we need to address right now, and we need to discuss it. And I'd be happy, you have Chief Dean's proposed pay rate, and then you have the union's proposed pay rate, and that's really our goal right now, is to retain the staff that we have. So I would like to open this for council to give me their thoughts, give me their ideas.
I guess my question, Mayor, would be just a question. Should we be discussing wages with an open forum? I mean, is that proper? When are we going to maybe throw numbers around?
Well, we're not going to agree to anything tonight.
Okay, that's okay.
We're just discussing it.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're.
Yep.
Well, it's no secret that I am a union member. I'm wearing a union shirt today. I'm also an employee at John Deere, so I do understand the John Deere wages. And what has been said is very accurate, that where you have the incentive to work for John Deere and the benefits package as a whole disincentivizes people to go into law enforcement. That's very true. And so when you have that heavy weight in this community bearing down on everyone, all agencies, you know, as a city, you can't directly compete, but you can incentivize yourself to at least retain good employees, good officers, to the point where they're not going to look elsewhere, especially if they're already committed to this community. And that's just my opinion on things. You know, I'm not gonna back down from being a union member, but I'm also pragmatic about being a city councilman.
Sure.
I think, Mayor, I mean, I fully understand what we're saying. I think we need a little time to look this all over and decide a plan that we think is gonna work, and are we gonna open up the contract? Are we gonna make, I mean, to have a legality part to it, which I don't understand. I don't think I can really make tonight. I understand the need, I have no problem about that, but I'd like a little time to digest this and maybe come back to the council and talk about thoughts on the different things that are going on here, and then what else is being played into this hourly rate. Is there anything else going to be played into it? I mean, I have always supported the police department. I want to take care of this, and I appreciate Mike being short-staffed. I have no issue with none of that. I just, myself, as one council person, need a little time to look this all over before I could really feel good at what I'd say. This is what I think I want to go with. This is my vote. I'm not saying weeks on end. I'm saying we could meet again, have a little time to think about it, and if the council doesn't want to do it that way, that's fine, but I think that's what all of us really need to do, to think on it a little bit, because there's a lot thrown at us here right now.
Yep.
I wasn't anticipating this time.
Where does the union come into this? I mean, they've got to be involved in it somewhere.
He had just called me this morning and asked if he could stop by. So I think that he had been discussing with some of the staff of the police department, because I did not reach out to him.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I'd like your thoughts. I mean, we have a meeting coming up next Tuesday. Is that going to give you enough time to review this information? And
So this is a proposal from the union rep,
it is.
and then
That
this
is
is
correct.
from Mike, that Mike handed out.
That is correct.
Just wanted to make sure I understood it.
Yep.
Yeah, because I want to look at, like, I'm looking at what they're currently under Team's contract, what they're getting with the new July contract, and look at the different numbers, and I can see that maybe there has to be some adjustments, maybe. I don't know if we can go to the top of the deal, but I'd rather look at it a little bit and be educated when I make a comment.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, like Mike said, that you have the union's proposal, and then he didn't feel that it went far enough, and that's why he's given us his thoughts on it, where he's going to retain employees.
And who was the three? I thought I knew that there was Jordan, the other one you're talking about, and Randy Weber, and Cass is off on family issues. Is there another one besides those three?
So currently, we have Randy Weber, who is calling it quits as far as his career. He's going to retire. And then I've got Cass Dietz, who's on leave of absence.
Who's that, Mike?
Cass Dietz.
Oh, yeah.
And then I've got two other officers that are looking at other agencies. So we'll be down a total of 4 of that. If that happens, our department will literally be cut in half probably in the next couple of months if that happens.
Who's the other officer besides Jordan to make the 4th?
Joe.
And we could take all the time we want. I will definitely put this on the agenda for next Tuesday. I don't think that we should delay. We don't need to be in a situation where we don't have a police force, or we're not gonna be able to staff our police force.
The only other
especially
question,
since it is a requirement.
right,
in the state.
my only question, Mike, is if the pay is adjusted in some kind of comparable way, are the officers all happy at that point, or are there other issues besides the pay scale?
Well, if you want me to be frank, I know that some officers have a real issue with the focus being on reducing resources when we have such a staffing issue. That is an issue. But I fully believe if we can address the wage issue, and you folks take a good hard look at this, and again, I want to reemphasize that what I gave you is, I would love to see that, but that's a talking point. That's where I'd like to at least have a discussion. When you decide to come to some resolution, if you decide to make any concessions regarding wage, I want you to really consider if you honestly think that's going to retain officers and attract. And that's all I can really add to it.
I appreciate your time, Mike. Do we need to have the board, the council meeting next week, or after, stay over and discuss this better than me? Or can this be in public forum at the meeting next week and say this? Are we gonna get together before that, or we're gonna decide this and come in and say?
Oh, you
what?
mean like try to meet and do with the union as well?
Yeah, I'm just asking, what are gonna be the options, if any? That's all I'm asking.
Well, that is an option. I mean,
Should they be involved? I mean,
generally speaking, during any kind of a union negotiation, you know, it would come to council for consideration. So, and that's handled by the city attorney and the mayor.
what is the rest of the council? Do we need to open the contract up? Or are we just, with contract up, can we just make pay increases when these are contract jobs for the union?
What we'd actually do is amend the current agreement that we have.
Okay, that's all I'm-
And so then that current agreement would go, your amending would go through where the current agreement ends.
That is correct.
Okay. When's the current agreement end?
It was effective in 21. So
And
it'd be-
it's
So it'd be 21, 22. It would be 24.
to 24, okay.
This is a 3-year.
Yep.
Really, there's no need to having a contract on it, but contract don't mean nothing. If you can just change it whenever, just because economic times or something like that change it a little bit, that's what you got a contract for, to set prices. Now, if you can change contracts.
And you're right, Ron. You're absolutely right. So, you can do an addendum if the city attorney agrees that we can do that, or you can open up negotiations. But, how deep do you want to go?
When's the next contract?
She just said 24.
24.
Oh, 24, this is
So-
22, well,
We have an immediate need now.
I can see in that 2 more years. Of course, you don't know where prices are gonna go, whether they're gonna go up or they're gonna take a crash. It could go either way. I'm in business, I know what the thing is, so.
Yep,
Um,
I'm sure.
If the prompt way is to open up the agreement and look at it and come up with an agreeable thing from the city to the union, this is what we're proposing, and then see what they say on that. That's the quickest way around it, rather than waiting. I don't want to wait 2 years.
I definitely don't want to wait 2 years. Not with what's faced in front of us right now.
No, this is, we need to take immediate action on this. If we want to retain the law enforcement officers that we have, this is something we need to look at right away.
Is there a viable union representative here today? No?
What's that?
Is there a union representative here today? Your steward? Okay. Understandably, you can't speak for your president, but is that agreeable to open up negotiations, or you want to get back?
I think we're obviously with Dan McDowell contacting the mayor, we're open to obviously open up negotiations.
Okay, then.
To,
That answers your question with that.
I think that just goes without saying with the union contacting you and handing that
why wouldn't they? It's a wage increase. We're talking about a wage decrease and they wouldn't want to open it up.
And then I guess
Well-
the last question I had to think about, everybody, this is just open for thought. New hires or officers that we have, this incentive package, are we thinking in terms of that, new hires that come on, some kind of incentive as well as, and along with the incentive, when we send them to school, have a contract in place where, you know, stay so many
Right.
years and pay it back rather than us. We seem to be a stepping stone with some in the past. So do we want to think about that at the same time we're talking this for future?
Well, absolutely, Ron. Steve, sorry, Ron's over here. Absolutely, Steve. I mean, you're proposing opening up negotiations. So with negotiations, you can put in incentivized places. And you can put your limitations on your incentivization, you know, like you say, retain you for at least 2 years or 3, whatever. Otherwise, we need to pay a portion back.
Right.
I mean, negotiations can be open to almost anything.
How many years is it, Mayor? 3 years when they send them training? They got to be at least 3 years?
I believe it's 4.
We made it there 4.
Yeah,
We done 4? Oh,
4.
okay.
yeah.
All right.
And there is an agreement in place for all of our officers that go through ILEA.
So something like that's already in place.
Yes, it
Yeah,
is.
so, I mean, that alleviates your concerns right today.
Does everybody think they can have a thought press before the meeting next week, or do we want this on the agenda, or do we want separate conversation on this? I'm just asking the question, what's your, Mayor, what you think the way it should be handled?
Well, what I can do, and I could reach out to Mr. McDonald with Teamsters Union and, you know, maybe open up to him visiting with you as well. Because he's surely going to see the trend.
Okay. You want us
Okay.
to report back to you what we're thinking in this next week, or just
That
want
would be
to?
nice, yeah. I would love to have open conversation about it. That would be great.
Okay.
So just our agenda tonight is city planning. These are the items that you will bring before the council, and it's just going to be council that's going to be speaking this evening. It's just some ideas that you have where we're going to head for the future. This is something that had been requested by a couple of council people, and, you know, just looking at things that we can do better all around the city, and maybe encouraging different departments. Maybe there's different workloads that we can take on, or maybe equipment that could be purchased so we could be more active in the city affairs.
So I think the idea behind the city planning was to also get department heads involved with this, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And so, do we have any department heads that would like to speak to their areas of concern?
I mean, I got a whole list of 5-year capital improvement.
Sure.
You go on for,
Well, I mean, that's why we're here to initiate this conversation.
Podium, Chris, and
Chris, could you get us a copy of what your 5-year plan is, so we have it?
This is just kind of jotting down through, because, you know, I do go out and do work in the field with the guys or whatever, so I don't sit at my desk as little as possible, actually, but, so we have a lot of repairs we need to do on on West Gilbert repairs, which everybody's kind of seen. I want to replace all the lights on Lafayette, because the wires are corroded and kind of falling apart, where they have to wear suits and face shields and stuff like that. And we just got all the underground put in, so that was done this year. I want to do something with Shift Street. We get a ton of truck traffic back there, and now that Quan bought Lucas Asphalt, he bought that area back there where the traffic is double with semis and heavy equipment. So we need to do something with the bike trail, an overlay or something. We crack sealed it a couple years ago, but I have grass growing through it, and that gets a ton of traffic. Tom was saying something about that last night at our park board meeting. We have a lot of dangerous sidewalks
on Evans Central, and some like even on Grand. We don't have a whole lot of sidewalk streets, but like the road course is all new basically, but they're just, and we kicked around a few little bid things, and I got some more groundwork to do on maybe seeing if we maybe be able to get some of these tools to accomplish some of this stuff that I want to do, but they can grind them to ADA compliant, so we're going to kind of look into that. But the estimates are free, so I'm going to capitalize on that. Painting, I was struggling to get paint. I got 6 buckets coming tomorrow morning, so this week hopefully we're going to start striping again.
Oh, thank you.
Shoulder repair, that's basically, try to do that every year. Street department parking lot. So we have a new code enforcement building inspection, and in our codes, we're supposed to have hard surface, because like out at Evansdale truck and trailer out there, they bring a lot of gravel dust out on the ground, and their intake is like concrete. It's so full of that dust, this gravel dust. So we're really not in compliance, and I'm not saying do our whole door yard, I'm just saying do our front part, or just even a small portion of our front part, so we can enforce the rules that we're abiding to ourselves. As far as the animal control building, we've been empty for 3 weeks. I guess I didn't really feel it was necessary or was be a good move to spend $70,000 on a building when we're not, we don't have animals in there all the time. We're just a holding facility, and we try to move them out as quick as we could. So I got to do a little bit more legwork on it, but like with the swamp cooler and exhaust fan, I think we can get something accomplished that's feasible and comfortable for the animals when they're only in there for, a couple days, 7 days at the most, for $5,000, which is way better than $70,000. We have a few manhole repairs that I want to get done. We have some road repairs to do on Evansdale Drive and Doris Drive. That kind of intersection is getting kind of beat up pretty bad, and we want to take care of our busiest streets first, and which everybody knows there's a ton of traffic out there, and then as soon as we hopefully start developing Eagles Landing, we're going to have even that much more. I got some storm intakes I want to deal with. Kind of a reach, but I'd like to get the bike trail from on the levee from West Gilbert to Lafayette, because that would also help with when in our flooding, we can get our equipment up there, and then it'd be easier because we, once we place those pumps, we still got to get diesel to those pumps. We still got to regulate those pumps. And I don't know if you found out a couple years ago, PCI put a Chrysopholy pump out there, and the tractor got vandalized. All the batteries got stolen. So we want to go out there as quickly as possible. But I get inspections twice a year from the Army Corps of Engineers, and we do damage when we go out there when it's flooding. So then I get dinged on that because we can only repair it as fast as it dries.
Right.
So and a lot of times that doesn't happen. They're like, call me up and they say they're going to be there in a couple weeks, and everything's still wet, and I can't get out there and get it fixed back up. I'd like to see generators at the Lafayette lift station and out at Flying J for the sewer part of that. That's about it. That's about what I got down for.
Do you have this compiled in more of a
No.
aggregated thing? So like immediate
Like
need?
rating it?
Yeah, rating it. No.
No,
Okay.
I don't.
Okay.
We'll get that together though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, immediate needs obviously, and then kind of wants.
Gilbert, that's
Yeah.
that's a high priority one. These sidewalks are huge high priority. I get, constantly discussed with throughout residents about, there's a lip on Lafayette, there's a lip on Grand, there's all these spots that, and I try to write them down, and I mean, we have a punch list that goes on forever.
Yeah.
Well, I
And we
think-
have a ton of trees we gotta take down too.
Yeah.
Well, and I know I called in a blowout on River Forest to Deanne, and he must have come out right away and got that done. So I
Yeah,
mean,
as soon as I got into town,
Yeah.
he was putting a shovel in his back and
Yeah.
back in his truck, and he beat me there. I mean, it's definitely ours, but I like that relationship
did
we
it.
have with them.
DOT did it.
Yeah. they
Okay,
really did.
good, good.
And
They
they
just happened to show up.
yeah, they plow all the way down to West Gilbert, and then they
Yeah.
do our turnaround, and they open that up really good. And they've started to plow like on Evansdale Drive. They'll come off the interstate and then turn around at McDonald's and stuff. So that's a huge help for us, because what takes them 2 passes takes us 6 passes.
Right.
So,
Anyone have any questions for Chris?
I just had a couple things I want to bring up, Chris. I think you're a good leader of the team. I would just like to hope the team could do maybe some more in-house stuff. I'm not saying build streets, but some of the stuff like, I'm just throwing this out for conversation. This is crack sealing, repairing the sidewalks, you're doing the curb thing on Central. And if we need to get some stuff for you to make those things happen, to save outsourcing all the time, to save some money, because I'm looking at seeing what give and take. If we can outsource, you know, if you can do some things to save us outsourcing some jobs, then naturally that loosens up money to give you some of your 5-year plan. But when we outsource everything, and then all these things on top of it, we get into quite a restraint sometimes. And I'd like to see you and the guys think about that, and I've talked to the mayor about it. And we can come up, I can come up with things I would like to see you guys try to do. If you tell us or tell me you can't do it, fine, but I think you guys are all talented enough to do these things. And I'll stop down and see you, and I'll get some prices. You're pretty, I'll get you some prices of the 2 or 3 things I'm thinking of,
okay.
and see what you think, and we can kind of go from that.
We did kind of cut up the Central project, and we're doing, I don't know, quite a bit of curb removal.
Yeah.
I'm
It
happy to
brought
see
it brought the quote down about 60 grand.
I'm very happy to see that we're participating to save money, because that money can be used for other things that we're talking about needing to be done.
But you gotta understand, you know, I'm low staffed too, and I'm begging people to stay left and right, because, I mean, all day long, it's not news to anybody. Waterloo destroys me. I mean, and they've taken 2 people from us already, so, and
Diane
probably
still
way
with
more
us?
than that.
Diane still with us?
Yeah, I had to beg her, but she's here for now. But, you know, money talks. I mean, I hate to say it, but these kids want to make a lot of money.
Is she,
That's the whole goal.
from what I've heard though, did they reach out to her, or did she reach out to them, do you know?
Every time I dump our combo truck, our backhaul in Waterloo, they reach out to me.
About her?
Yep.
Okay.
And I don't know how it got all with the DOT, if they reached out to her, because, you know, we deal with these people on a regular basis. So I don't know if they reached out to her or what, but they really wanted her, and they're really upset that they didn't get her.
But she's content now with what the labor grade thing changed and what it went up to, she's
Yep.
content, or she's still got,
She's content.
okay? Because I'd hate to lose her, because she's a very good, exceptional employee out in the street. When I see everybody working, she always seems to be ground engaged and everything.
Yep, she's an excellent operator. She works hard, shows up every day. I mean, what more can you ask for?
I'm happy to hear that about her today.
Yep.
Thank you.
And a lot of people want her.
Oh, I'm sure of that.
You know, it's honestly, she's young, she's a woman. I mean, she's in this field, and she loves it. She's an excellent operator.
Well, let's make sure, we try to make sure that we keep her happy and don't lose her, bring it to our attention or something.
Right,
We'd see that.
right.
Okay?
And I don't want to get put in the hot seat, just like none of y'all want to be put in the hot seat. I don't like, you know,
I think
situation at
Deanne,
all either, but
Deanne brought up a good point the other day. It kind of stuck in my brain when I left City Hall. If we all work together and communicate and work on issues in the city, I think we can be better than what it is today. But it's gonna take the staff and the council and everybody to work together and communicate these issues, so we all know what's going on in the departments. That's all I'm asking as one council person. And if we do that, I think we'll have a great year, and we'll have a lot of good things to get done. That's where I'm coming from.
yeah, I couldn't do it without the residents' help and you guys' help and, you know, telling us, because, you know, town's fairly big, and we can't be everywhere at once, you know. There was a sign down in Timber Creek that I had no idea that sidewalk got put in. And it'd been laying there for a week or so, but, yeah, if residents don't, or like the pothole things, if you tell us where a pothole is, generally, we can, you know, move stuff around to run out there and take care of that right away.
I do appreciate
So
that.
that all helps.
I think we have, well, as long as we're together on the same team, doing the same stuff, I think we'll improve, get better than what we even are. And that's what I'm hoping for going forward, and I think you'll participate in that too.
Absolutely.
I appreciate your time, Chris.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you, Chris. Chief Dean?
Chris is a little bit of an overachiever with his 5-year plan, but I just jotted down a couple things that came to mind. Our camera system down at the CRC is a little antiquated. We'd like to see that updated at some point. Our basement needs some serious attention. We've got water issues down there and have had for a long time. We even talked about the possibility of just abandoning that and starting with a new facility. And I don't know how feasible that is, but and then also the other thing that I thought about was the speed signs. I think the one sign that we have now has been a fantastic tool. I've watched some of the data that sign captures, and I think that it's been very effective, and I'd like to see us get more.
How's our little trailer doing? Has that been repaired, or is that just?
I've failed to get it out as much as we probably should, and that's something I probably need to take care of myself, but yeah. It just needs some batteries, and I think it would be up and running, so we could definitely use that as well.
Okay. Excuse me.
Sorry.
Have you dug down there and see if there's blue clay down there?
I have not.
And that's what I think their problem is down there, and I said that before, because down at my house, I used to have, when I had my own well, when I built the house, the water table was like 4 foot under my floor.
Yeah, well, I know they cut a hole in the floor down there when Dick was still here, because there was some speculation that there was some sort of a membrane underneath the concrete there that was supposed to keep the groundwater.
See, that used to be a pond. It was there was a dump for a while, and it was a
Yeah.
pond before that. We used to ice skate down there when I was a kid. That's where we went ice skating.
Yeah,
And they built them houses on there, and I think, well, what I was getting at, on my house, when they put the city sewer in there, they broke through that blue clay, and that dropped the water level 15 feet, clear down to where the level of the lake is.
okay.
And,
Well, the police department
and I'm
doesn't do
thinking the
that.
same thing in there. If you got blue clay under there, it might be 10, 12 feet under the ground, but,
Yeah, from what I understood, when they opened that floor up, there's a membrane that was under there that was supposed to help keep the groundwater from pushing up, and that had failed. There was some talk about putting some pit right there, and we'd have to get a hold of.
if it's blue clay in there, you're not gonna get rid of it. Go down and break through the blue clay, and that'll just, like a drain, it'll go right down through there. It might be worth trying, just taking a backhoe down there and digging a 15 or 16-foot hole and see if you run into it.
If you can get that backhoe down the basement and dig a hole. I was
gonna say,
I'll
how do you-
see that.
That's what he's talking about.
You don't need to get it down the basement.
Oh, okay.
That's what you're doing. You
I'm
gotta
just
show
trying to
me.
clarify. I have a question for Chris. The mayor and I went down there the other day and seen the water. I'm hearing that the Myers Lake level has something to do with water coming up in the basement of the CRC. Is there any validity to that?
Not that I'm aware of.
I
You heard me
don't,
talk
I
about
don't
that,
think
Dan?
that's any validity to
I
it.
don't know.
Well, there's got to be a reason and a cause why this is going on.
It's because if it gets, like I say, there's blue clay in there, the water don't go down through it, sits down there, and it sits there for a long time before it ever goes through that blue clay, because it's like a lake bottom where the water doesn't go through. Just like when I had water that's like 3 or 4 feet under my basement floor until I broke through the blue clay. Now you can go down 6 foot under my floor and you don't hit any water. But that, when they broke that blue clay, my well all dried up, everything else, and that was down about 15 foot, because that force main, I think, went down about 15 feet in the ground there, and they broke through that pan, and that whole area down there is all blue clay underneath the thing. That's why there was a lake right there. See, originally, that whole thing was gonna be a lake, and they was gonna build houses around it, and it was gonna be the retention pond before they decided to make Myers Lake bigger. And, that's because there was a pond there before. That's where we went ice skating when we was kids.
He's saying the pond was at the CRC.
Yeah, I knew there was like
Yeah.
a creek or some kind of something going through there years ago.
Yeah, there was a creek like running into there, and then there's a whole thing of water where Brookside is, that was all underwater and everything, that's where we ice skated.
Hey, Mike,
Yeah,
is the basement dry today?
I have not looked at it today, so I'm not sure.
What did we come up with? I was there with you. Something-
We called in Hudson Hardware Plumbing and Heating, so they're gonna get back to us on some ideas.
Might be worth trying to dig a hole there and see if you can run into any blue clay, because if you can, then that'll go down and that'll solve the problem. Otherwise, you ain't never gonna solve it. They could probably run a drill down through there, somebody with a well drilling machine, and see
That's what I
if
was
you run
wondering.
into the blue
Yep.
clay. And if you do, then take a hole and knock a big hole in it with a backhoe or something. And couple of sticks of dynamite.
We can't hear you so well.
Anyone else on the council want to speak tonight, or?
Are we gonna have another one of these thinking processes? I think it's gonna take a lot more than one.
Yeah, well, it's
Everybody's
definitely-
mind's gonna open up and think, I
Yeah.
should have said that, or hey, here's a great idea, or, I don't wanna just have it just lay dormant.
No, I mean,
Doing
I do think it's pertinent that we continue to have these, to try and lay out the future of the city. I mean,
it, right?
it's,
Well, and I think what we'll eventually need to do is put a capital improvement plan together.
Yeah.
And then every
We-
year, we budget towards that capital improvement
Yeah.
plan on things that are above and beyond just normal maintenance items.
Is there any way, I was gonna ask you the other day, that when we get all this settled and we know the dollars that are gonna be expended going forward, that we can come anywhere near what a levy rate may be for another budget time? Like, if there'd be an increase in the levy rate per thousand, or there's no way to really zone in until budget time, the winter time, like December?
I mean, I guess I'm not certain what you're asking.
Well,
Are-
the change, the things that we are going to do or need to do, is it gonna have a tremendous impact on the levy rate next year or not? That's what I'm just trying to
I
get at.
mean, no, I don't believe so, because we're gonna plan, when you put a capital improvement plan together, you're planning annually for these, and it's baby steps, you know, it's the big picture, 5 years. You're looking at things you could do in 5 years, the things that need to be done sooner, you're gonna budget for sooner. Like for Chris's example, you know, and I think we'll be doing a budget amendment this year, to handle, some of the issues that we have on West Gilbert, and mainly is the storm sewers. Cause he still has plenty of money that we could amend his budget. So those are things we might well take care of immediately, even though we have, some future things going on with, other street projects in the next couple of years. Ron, you'd asked me how many meetings were budgeted, and we did budget for 26 meetings. So, obviously there's gonna be 24, and we always budget for 2 extra.
No, I know we had some extra, but I didn't know we had.
We always budget extra for budget. So, it doesn't matter to me. You guys want to schedule this and want to meet again, bring more ideas to the table, or,
Maybe-
things that you
Maybe we
observe.
need a raise too.
Let me know, I'll put it on the agenda.
No, I'm good.
Do we want to schedule another one of these for a time, so we kind of know, or do we want to leave it late till next meeting and then talk about a future time to talk about planning again, or?
Well, what I'd do is wait a couple of meetings to get more information on, just what we're gonna have to end up with as far as costs. You get them approximate costs together for police? Can you get approximate cost
For,
for police everybody wants a raise. I mean, what's your total budget? What it's gonna increase your total budget?
Yeah, I guess we'd have to sit down and try to,
Yep.
Ron, we can look at that, look at the dollar change and look at their budget and kind of know pretty close to what an increase would be, whatever. That would be pretty basic. Once we know that number, we're gonna settle on.
Yeah, we don't know yet what the number is.
No, not tonight.
No, not tonight.
And I just want to throw this out there too. Most of our funds, most of our funds for the American Rescue Funds have been designated to sewer projects, to lining and to the Michigan lift station rehabilitation. We could use a little bit of revenue or a little bit of reserves in our sewer department and help offset, some of these other increases within the city using American Rescue Funds, because that is something that's definitely allowable through that program.
And we don't have that all allocated for the new,
What I'm saying is, take 10,000, away from the lining project, because we actually did budget 100,000 for that
right?
this year. So take some money away from that, and, it's not been designated yet there, that's what we're proposed. And, and do this. I think it'd be money well spent, I think that would increase our morale. I think it'd make a lot of changes, positive for the city.
So my last question would be, is this something we're gonna have a final conversation on next week, or decide what way we're going? Union contract, or we're gonna open up the contract, or
I mean, that's,
something to decide amongst the council? What-
yeah, I'll reach out to, like I said, I'll reach out to the union representative tomorrow. Maybe he can reach out to you guys individually and discuss. He sees the big picture. He has several different cities that he works with, so. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn this evening.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.
I thought she was gonna say opposed, I was gonna say aye.
You want to stay?
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
yep,